everybody, Jeff, your executive gardener here. Hey, sorry I've been off for a few weeks. I've been sick, as you can tell. There's a nasty cold flu going around in the United States, and you can hear I'm still hanging on to me after a week or so. So I do apologize. Anyway, most of you don't know I'm from Philadelphia. I got my old Philly shirt on, so all of you Philadelphia fans out there, I can feel the love. But we're here to talk about compost tea. So if you're like me, one of the big mistakes I have is, I should say, is I use a lot of fertilizer in my water and so forth, and sometimes I use that chemical fertilizer. The problem is, as you know, it can burn plants or fruits or vegetables pretty bad if you use too much. Using compost tea, I'll talk to you about in this episode, is something that everybody can do. You can use worm compost or just your typical traditional composting where you have an air composter like I have, which I'll show you, or a tumbler composter. Either way, use kitchen scraps or you use worm castings or newspaper, whatever you do, or raked leaves. It's a great recyclable resource that can be used to treat your vegetables, fruits, and other plants and make them real green. So I'm going to show you some of my plants. I just treated, they were yellow, they were browning, and I treated them one day with compost tea. Now, there's two ways of doing compost tea. One is using steeped tea, so it's S-T-E-E-P-E-D, steeped tea, and that's the method that I prefer to use. It's a lot easier. And the other method, which is to brew your tea, your compost tea, which involves, getting like a tea bag or a sock, and then putting an oxygen source into it and bubbling it and all that. It's a lot of work. Steeped tea is real easy to do. I'll show you how to do it. And the great thing about using a steeped compost tea is that you'll probably not find anything better for your plants. It gives them the beneficial bacteria that the soil so desperately needs. And you got great, very healthy, big produce. Or vegetables if you're growing vegetables. So I'll show you what I do to make steeped compost tea, and hopefully you can learn from this and use this in your own garden. So I'm going to grab the camera and show you my process. So here's my composting system. It's the Aerobin 2000 composting system. I like it because I don't have to tumble it. It constantly gets air and so forth. So you'll see at the top, it's a pretty damn big one, but you'll see the compost is at the bottom, and I'll give you a close-up. It's pretty yucky, and for people that don't like composting, I guess hold your stomach or your nose. So what you'll see there is I've got a good mix of nitrogen sources, so you'll see some fruit scraps there, bananas, peppers, oranges, and then cardboard and paper. It's really important when you're composting to get an equal mix of nitrogen and carbon sources. Otherwise, your compost will stink. You'll get that anaerobic smell, also if you don't get air in it. So this does get air, it doesn't stink at all. And quite frankly, I'll try to zoom in here. You see all this? All you have to do for the steeping method of composting is you grab a good shovel full of the stuff that's already been composted by all the organisms in here, and you put that into a 5-gallon bucket. So that's what I've done already, but that's what the inside of a composting bin looks like. The stuff on the bottom is rich black compost that's already been done the work by all the organisms and microorganisms that are in there. But I would take about a shovelful and then start by taking it from the bottom and putting it into a 5-gallon bucket. I'll show you what you do next. So I took my shovelful of that compost, and then what I did was I put it into a typical 5-gallon bucket, as you see here. That's a simple 5-gallon bucket, and I filled the entire bucket up with water. So and I've already done this. You don't need to see me dropping the compost in the bottom and filling it up with water. It's already been done. Save you some time on watching this. But one of the important things you need to do is you need to stir it. So it usually will sit at the bottom, but I'd let it sit for a day or two and constantly stir it 2 or 3 times a day. And what this does is it gets oxygen into it, gets all the nutrients stirred, and what you'll get here is, you can see here, it's a very thick, blackish, thicker than coffee type material that has all the microorganisms in it and so forth. And what I typically do is I fill up a watering can halfway, actually about a quarter of the way, and I put the rest with this compost tea in it. And that's how you do it. So, but it's important, let it sit for 2 days, stir it 2 or 3 times a day to keep oxygen getting into it and keeping it stirred up. And this 5-gallon bucket will last you longer than you think. So where should you use it? You know, you should use it in anything, definitely a potted plant, because the microorganisms and nutrients get washed out as you water plants. And I also use it in your garden. So it's always great to replenish your garden soil with these beneficial bacteria and organisms in your soil, and it builds up good soil. So typically I found my pepper plants, my tomato, all the things get much bigger with this rich black gold, liquid gold that I put. So I'm going to show you in a second an example of, I put this compost tea, steeped compost tea, into 2 of my fruit plants, and they were yellowish brown a day ago, and I'll show you what they look like now with this compost tea. So here's one. Here's my, I think it's a Meyer lemon tree, and I kid you not, I was using mostly water, commercial fertilizers on this, and probably 2 days ago it was just all the leaves were yellowish brown, very miscolored. So about actually about 13 hours ago, earlier this morning, I put the compost tea into this container which my plant sits, and look at the color now. It's unbelievable. I mean, look at this. If plants could smile, they're smiling. Look at the leaves are faced up toward the sun, and look at the vibrant green. It really is remarkable. Just within 12 hours, when you treat the soil with the bacteria, beneficial bacteria and other organisms that are in compost tea with the nutrients, it does wonders. And you can see I have plenty of little lemons that are growing on here, but it's unbelievable. 12 hours, this is what happened. And the great thing about it is you can't over fertilize it. So you can't use too much compost tea. Now you don't want to use it all the time, but it's not something like fertilizer that will burn it out. So that's my lemon, and here's my lime tree. Same situation. You can even see some of these leaves were still a little yellow. See this yellow here? Hold this up. This yellow was what both of these trees looked like, this yellowing look. Now look what it looks like. Look at the difference. I mean, it's remarkable, night and day difference. A few of them are still yellow, but I treated this this lime tree with the same thing. Steeped compost tea, and you can see, I already have limes on there all over the place, but in 12 hours it's turned that much yellowish, with some of these leaves are still yellow, to the green. So absolutely remarkable. And it's easy to do. Get a simple $50 to $100 compost bin, compost. Do this, you can do it every time you water if you want. I don't recommend it, but every other week. And whether you have a soil garden or you have a container garden, use steeped compost tea. It does wonders for your garden. The fruit comes out very full of water. The plant just simply thrives. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode from the Executive Gardener. Excuse me for my cold. And give me a thumbs up if you liked the video, or pass it on to a friend. Anybody that may be interested in using compost tea and not having to buy it online. So you look online, for example, and you'll see it for sale for $20, $30, $40. Yeah, I'm sure it's worth it, but you could do it for a fraction of the cost with the scraps from your kitchen and a $50 to $100 compost bin, and have it for all year round. So again, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Have yourself a great week.